All right, welcome. We're going to start a new series called Quick Takes, which will be sort of a overview of something deep. Then we'll probably discuss it deeper in the podcast or in future. But just want to get sort of an overview so people get an understanding when we talk about something in general, what are we actually speaking about? Because I think there's a lot of, for, I guess, for conditioning, if you look at it, there's a lot of different ways that could be interpreted. So today we'll discuss that because it's sort of what we're known for and what we specialize in is conditioning for BJJ. So the key place to start here is what is conditioning? A lot of us probably would come up with a number of different definitions. So we'll go with the standard one that one of the people that taught me and sort of the what I'd say a godfather of conditioning is Joel Jameson, and I took this from him. It's his definition. He defines it as conditioning as the physical and mental ability to utilize your fitness to meet your specific demands. So, first, we'll unpack that a little bit. By fitness, he means the measure of physical qualities that create the potential for performance. So, if you're looking at that, what that means is, say, your VO2 max, your resting heart rate, HRV numbers, what's your, one rep max of certain lifts, different metrics, your functional movement screen, how does your body move? So if you were to look at an athlete on paper and they had these great metrics, you would say, oh, that person is fit. That's what we mean by fitness. Now, on the flip side, if you look at that and what he means here is you could have that person and yet they don't have the physical mental ability to utilize that and they don't perform, and you'd say they're not conditioned if you were to see them perform. And I think that's what we see a lot is, especially in MMA and BJJ, is that you could have some really fit athletes, even out of your own gym or people you've seen train before, and you're like, oh, that person is fit. Then they go into a fight and they just absolutely gas out and fatigue and things go south. And we've all seen it, and that's because conditioning, as we're discussing, doesn't actually relate to fatigue. And the question is why? Well, if you look from anything from a novice athlete to professional, there's three key indicators of conditioning, three things you can work on. And that would be power output, which is what we'll get deeper into because it's our area of specialty. There is technical skill, and that is going to be for jujitsu, your belt levels, what you know in each of those, your technique, the technical skill, all of that. And then the actual tactics or strategy you bring to employ in that match or whatever event you're in. Now, if you're, say, the last thing we talked about, fatigue, say you're that fighter here, and you can see by the power output, that white circle, they've got a great deal of fitness. They're well conditioned. You would say that athlete, yeah, they're doing good. Their technical skill compared to their opponent, not quite as at the same level. And then if you look at their tactics and strategy, they just weren't employing the right game plan. Well, what's going to happen to that athlete versus someone that's got higher levels is now their power output, which is your energy production and your energy expenditure, are going to affect them. You can only produce so much energy, and then because of the lack of skill and strategy, they're going to expend energy faster, and which essentially they're going to gas. So that's how you see that and why you see that. So the question is then, because well, one, we don't do technical skill or we don't work with you on tactics or strategy. That's on your professor and your team. How can we optimize power output to help eliminate that problem? So what we look at here is in optimizing that. So from going from wherever you're at to a high level of conditioning, we look at the two things that we just discussed: energy production. So this could be your aerobic, anaerobic system, and how they develop and produce energy. Your muscle size and type. So you've got different types of muscle fiber, and then your nutrition. Those three elements are how your body produces energy, sort of the currency of your body. So we'd want to look at those and work on those. The flip side, we want to look at energy expenditure, or more appropriately, efficient energy expenditure. So, how does your body move? Your mechanics and the key movements, your skill and technique. Are you wasting energy? Your mental performance, breathing, mental stress can play a big factor in energy expenditure. So, we would train all of that as we went. So, the key question here, when a lot of people like read over these slides or we talk about conditioning or strength or anything, is well, exactly where do we start? So, if I get in your program or if you're coaching me, what's the next step? Well, what we do is we have an assessment, so we know what a elite level jujitsu athlete needs. So we know they need a certain amount of power, strength. We know different conditioning metrics that we look at. We look at different movement, functional movement screens. So these are just examples. We have a wide range, and we put our athletes or clients through this assessment, and then grade it versus what we know we need. So for here's an example of the athlete would come in, their assessment would fall, and there are the white bars. The red bars would be what we know we need. So resting heart rate's a little bit higher than we normally want. Their HRV numbers are a little bit lower than what we want. Their strength is much less than what we would want. Power obviously is going to be right about the same if the strength isn't there, and they move poorly. So we would have this assessment now. So we know where we want to get them, the red bars. We know where they're at, the white bars. Now we can prioritize and create sort of a roadmap on how to get to the where we want to be. So, for example, with this athlete, clearly want to work in movement quality in every workout. As a warm up, cool down, we want to drill it, drill it, drill it. And then I would say with this athlete, we probably want to start with some strength, get some muscle and strength, and then work into some power on that. So that's where I would start. So that's a good way to sort of visualize and think about, say, your own performance. If you're doing your own programming, how do you do that? Just look at your biggest area of opportunity and then work from there. Once you have that and you know, like, okay, it's strength, you create this plan, then you execute the plan, and then you just don't blindly go 4 weeks and see if it worked. You manage it. So see how it's going. And when you create that plan, it's a pretty simple flow. You know that you need to disrupt homeostasis, which is just your normal, however you are. So, say with strength, we want to get stronger. We need to do things that are going to trigger that adaptation to get stronger. So, we need to lift outside of our realm of homeostasis. So, we'd go heavy. Going heavy, then, when we did that workout, is going to trigger certain sensors and hormones in the system. Those enhance, those are going to go through your system and they're going to land and attach. And then certain genes are going to be expressed to take care of whatever the issue is. When it takes care of that issue, then you're going to have the structural and functional neuromuscular adaptations, and you're going to get stronger. Now you'll see I skipped over an area, and it's the red arrow. This is an area that we find almost everyone neglects, and you won't get that adaptation at the bottom unless you manage the recovery of the adaptation. So, for example, what I mean is, okay, we do the lift. We lift heavy 5x3. So we're doing 5 sets of 3 at 95% of your 1 rep max squat. That is going to trigger and disrupt homeostasis, which is going to trigger some chemicals, which will express genes that will make more nerves inhibit the muscles and fire more of that muscle. That is what we're looking for. Now, if we don't take the necessary time to adapt and we don't have the nutrition, everything's not there, and we just repeat the next day, we will not see the gains that we would if we were to recover and fully adapt to that stressor and then repeat the cycle. So, something to keep in mind when you create a plan, don't get too crazy. Stick to the basics and give yourself some recovery. You'll thank me later. The results, if you put this all together and plan it out like we're discussing, anything from conditioning, so how you do your conditioning and that plan, to your strength and power, what you're going to get is a bigger, stronger, and more durable tissue, which is obviously very important for jujitsu. You're going to get improved energy production if that's what you're training, which is key, one of the key tenets of jujitsu. You want to be able to push that pace and wear out the other person, sort of flip the tables on them. You want more efficient energy expenditure. So you want to be able to do things and burn less energy than other people doing the same thing. Only makes sense. And then more effective movement patterns. So you're going to learn to not only move your body, but also control your mind and your breathing and your stress levels and overall just burn less energy. So that is the quick take. Try to keep these around 10 minutes. Looks like I'm slightly over, but that is our quick sort of touching the I guess beginning notes of conditioning and how we think of it as sort of our principles of how we plan conditioning. If you want to know more, look at us on Spotify, Neo BJJ or Duffy Performance. I'm sure we have some stuff there, or look up our programming on neobjj.com. Thanks.